I'm grateful to add congregational to the names of places that I've been honored to preach: Catholic, Presbyterian, Methodist, Baptist, Anglican, Lutheran, AME, Episcopal, Jewish, and now I get to add congregational. I'm honored to be a one-woman ecumenical woman. My thoughts this morning are prompted by the text from Genesis that was read earlier. In many traditions, Genesis chapters 16 through 20 are mostly about Abraham and his wife Sarah. Their problem is age. But another way to read these verses is to read them as the story of Hagar, the slave girl. Her problem is powerlessness. She's subject to the whims of those who possess her. So when Sarah thinks she's unable to bear a child, she says to her aging husband, "Go sleep with my slave girl." Hagar cannot resist. As one commentator wrote, "Let's not be under any delusions here. We're clearly talking about rape. What else can it be called when someone in complete power over you decides for you that you will forcibly become pregnant?" And so Hagar is raped. And when she conceives, she offends Sarah, who responds by abusing her further. Finally, according to the commentator, Hagar's suffering at Sarah's hands becomes so unbearable that she flees into the wilderness, fully expecting, we can assume, to die. That something incredible happens. God shows up. If it were a modern film, we'd have the drama built around two relationships, Abraham and Sarah, who are aging out, and God with Hagar, who are just beginning to whisper each other's names. All her life, Hagar has been mistreated by Abraham and Sarah because she had no intrinsic value. They want to use her body to serve as an empty carrier of a child. So there's rape, pregnancy, delivery, and then discard. When she's given them what they want, she's disposable. When they're irritated, she's vulnerable. They want not to see her anymore. Then God shows up, and as it happens, Abraham and Sarah's blindness toward Hagar is replaced with God's sight. "You are," Hagar says to her visitor in the wilderness, "the God who sees me." It's a scene repeated near the end of the drama after Hagar has given birth to Ishmael and again finds herself in the wilderness looking for shade, this time the child in tow, and once more she is visited by El Roi, the God who sees her. So here's what I wonder. Who are the Hagars? The discarded people who appear to hold no value in today's society? Who are the disposable ones who haunt our neighborhoods and our property values? Who would he or she be? Our Hagar, living in Belmont in this season of politics and polarization. Perhaps our Hagar would be someone with no power to resist the pressures of poverty and hunger. Our Hagar is, if seen at all, seen as someone less than fully human. Perhaps she has brown skin. Perhaps he has Down syndrome. Perhaps he lacks our language. Almost certainly, our Hagar would be given names or terms that deprived them of full humanity. It's an echo of the Nazi name for Jews, pigs, who were then roasted in the scalding hot ovens. In our own day, and within our own borders, some 2 million men are imprisoned, taken out of sight, given a felon's labels, and dismissed as having no value for us. I wonder how close they might come to being a Hagar. How can they even know that there is a God who sees them, who understands the violence all around them, who knows them not by a number, but by their name? We have millions of immigrants in America who live in the shadows, fearful that someone will take away their humanity. Or consider the 10 million people who experience domestic violence each year, most of the women who, like Hagar, never imagine their wounds are seen or their muffled cries are heard by God. May I talk about AIDS for a moment? You may know that we have 40 to 50,000 newly reported cases of HIV/AIDS in America annually. The myth that AIDS has been cured is false. We have treatments that work for some, but not all. And we have no cure. I know what it feels to be known as the AIDS lady, or the only Republican with AIDS. I know the feeling of having my children told not to play with the neighbor's children because their mother is, what, dirty? Part of what has made AIDS in America so painful is not only the sickness and death, but before we die, the prejudice and discrimination. There is a quiet brutality to being told you are not clean, not desirable, not worthy. 40-some years into the American AIDS epidemic, we have still not fully rid the epidemic of language suggesting AIDS is a dirty disease, troubling dirty people who deserve what they got. Especially with the rise of social extremism, to let it be known that you are HIV positive carries with it real risk in families, in places of employment, and in middle-class neighborhoods. In my recent memoir, I remembered Anne Lamott's retelling of her conversation with Father Terry Ritchie. "You have to learn not to have a broken heart," Father Ritchie told Anne. "After you learn that there are people all over this country who would volunteer to work for free in a death camp." When I started my campaign to change the face of AIDS in 1992, I wouldn't have believed that. Today, with the deepest possible regret, I do. And despite Father Ritchie's wisdom, it still breaks my heart. The roster of those who we, the comfortable, would rather not see, who we drive past or hurry around, is long but familiar. They are the abused children hidden in dingy apartments, teens with gender uncertainty who are prime candidates for suicide, women and children who are hungry, families without housing, the child born into his mother's addiction, the widow who grows feeble sharing your cat's food on her meager budget, the unshaven veteran living under the bridge, nurturing his PTSD and crying out in a distant enemy in every night's dreams. The list is long, dismal, and completely. Awake. I have good news. The Congregational Church of the Peninsula has been suffering with the eyes of a God who sees. Here is a congregation that has listened to the cries of those others have been unwilling to hear. You are an assembly that manages diversity without warfare, a gathering of God's people who have heard the cries of the powerless. You've welcomed those rejected in other quarters, including those who are HIV positive. You've fed the hungry, clothed the naked, and given hope to those on the brink of depression and suicide. When you invited me into your worship, you invited me into visit with a community of purpose. Part of that purpose is to bear witness to the truth, to speak for El Roi, the God who sees us all. You bear witness to the reality of Ishmael, the God who hears. On behalf of El Roi, you have given voice to the voiceless. You have become a bridge between those who have given up and the God who shows up to inspire hope and courage. You have, as a congregation and often as individuals, embodied a God who sees Hagar in the parched wilderness. You have not left today's Hagars alone, even when they imagine they are beyond the reach of a God who hears their cries and sees their suffering. You have been unwilling to have them suffer alone. My experience tells me that when we seek opportunities to care for the other, we are soon among those who are given aid and comfort by the God who shows up. We are seen in our weakness, heard in our muttered prayers, loved into service, knowing that if we cannot do everything, we can do something. If you are among those doubting that there is a God who sees you, as I have doubted, let us encourage one another that El Roi will show up before all hope is gone. If you are a stranger to the God who hears your prayers, as I have been a stranger, know that our prayers have reached a God who not only hears, but cares. I'm grateful you were willing to have me with you this morning. I increasingly face a challenge. You may know it's weariness and tiredness, the sense that I cannot deal with the world's craziness for one more day. I don't want to give up, but my body is exhausted and my mind is dull. At such moments, I return to the story Taylor Branch tells in his magnificent history of the civil rights movement in the years of Martin Luther King. If you're looking for this story, you'll find it in one of the final footnotes of Uneasy Silence. Let me share it with you. Early in 1956, the Alabama bus boycott was failing. No laws had changed. No buses had been integrated. No one was suffering except those who walked. Then came a little-known hero from Montgomery's African-American community, Mother Pollard. For untold decades, she had cared for the sick and raised the orphans, black and white alike. Now in her waiting years, Mother Pollard joined the boycott and walked. As the days stretched to weeks and then months, she walked. When the winter weather worsened and sheep began to slip and fall against the advice of King and others, she would pick herself up, time after time, and walk. A meeting was called to consider ending the boycott and finding another means of protest. The crowd was divided between speeches and arguments until Mother Pollard rose to speak. "I would rather crawl on my knees than ride on a bus," she told the hushed and now embarrassed crowd. She spoke of years of humiliation, of self-hatred, of injustice and shame. She noted that the outcome would have little to do with her life, but much to do with the lives of her many children. And then she gave the entire civil rights movement one of its classic refrains when she concluded, "My feet is tired, but my soul is rested." In the busyness of our lives and in the many works of charity that you provide, may you hear Hagar reporting that God has shown up again. Let her point us to the God who, in our weariness, still hears us, to the source of strength and in our weakness and doubt, and still sustains us. If you are willing to look, we may see a lonesome woman holding the hand of a child, stumbling in the heat of California's wilderness. If we cup our ears, we may hear a voice like that of Hagar. We may listen to the wisdom of Mother Pollard, and we may whisper to each other, "Oh yes, Church of the Peninsula, we know. Our feet have grown weary, but our souls are rested. Therefore, grace to you and peace."